And you know, this day started like any other day in New York City. Nobody suspected the horror that would unravel. People rushed to work under clear blue skies. There was unknown danger in those skies. Terrorists streaking towards New York City's World Trade Center towers. It's the worst attack on the United States since Pearl Harbor. This morning, shortly before 9 a.m., a passenger jet, apparently hijacked by terrorists, crashed into Tower Number 2, the North Tower of the World Trade Center. An explosion and fire followed. About 20 minutes later, a second commercial jet crashed into Tower Number 1, the South Tower of the Trade Center, causing a huge fireball. Both buildings were packed with workers, thousands trying to get out of the burning skyscrapers, but they're trapped. These people waved frantically from the upper floors. Some fell.
That thing falling? That's man. See him?
Some jumped to their deaths. Then the unthinkable, right after 10 a.m., the top of Tower Number 1 disintegrates and collapses to the east in a huge cloud of dust. Then, about 10:28, it happens again. Tower Number 2 tumbles down, raining steel and glass. Panicked people in the streets run for cover as another huge cloud of debris engulfs them on the city streets. Ash 2 inches deep covered the street. Now, most of those trapped in the Trade Center are feared dead. Almost simultaneously, word of a third hijacked passenger jet. It slammed into the Pentagon in Washington, D.C. The headquarters of the U.S. military goes up in flames. 5 floors in the mammoth structure collapse.
There was a lot of confusion.
Then word a fourth hijacked passenger plane crashed about 80 miles south of Pittsburgh. Word is it was on its way to Camp David. After being flown to a safe location, President Bush addressed a nation in shock.
Freedom itself was attacked this morning by a faceless coward, and freedom will be defended.
And New York City's mayor addresses a city under siege.
And we will strive now very hard to save as many people as possible and to send a message that the city of New York and the United States of America is much stronger than any group of barbaric terrorists, that our democracy, that our rule of law, that our strength and our willingness to defend ourselves will ultimately prevail.
That was John reporting. Okay, now, as you can tell, the pictures tell the story of the attack on America. Lower Manhattan reduced to rubble. Right now, the search and rescue efforts are going through the night.
Barbara Nevins-Taylor is standing by, and she has the latest for us tonight. Barbara?
Hi, Harry and Rosanna. I'm here with 2 young men who are, like many people, came forward today to volunteer. Mark and John are from Fordham University, and when they heard about the plane crashes into the building, they immediately went to a place where they thought that they could be of service. They ended up going down to the World Trade Towers, where the World Trade Towers were, and you were helping the firefighters. What were you doing, Mark?
Yes, we were located down by the water, and we saw the fire trucks coming back from the damaged area. So there was a lot of Poland Springs water down there, so we were handing them to the firefighters because their faces were just so distraught.
They were distraught, and one of the interesting things is you said that they seemed numb. Can you describe how they looked?
Yes, we were giving them water, and they just took it, and they looked like they were looking into space. Everybody was clapping for them. That hasn't gone in yet, but everybody that was coming out, they were just, reality, it looked like it really hit them.
So the people who were going into the people who were coming out of the building after trying to rescue, after trying to put out the fire, were numbed by what they had seen. John, you are here because you're also handing out pamphlets, flyers, asking people to volunteer to donate blood. Can you tell us what you're doing?
Yeah, New York City tomorrow, we're having a blood donation, blood drive from 8 a.m. to 6 p.m. at the New York Hospital on 68th Street and New York Avenue. They're in extreme need of blood, especially people of type O, but anybody that can come down, donate blood. Everybody's encouraged. I've been handed to the volunteers, and you know, it's something that I hope a lot of people can do. I hope this message will get to everybody out there.
Okay, thank you very much, and thanks for volunteering tonight. Rosanna and Harry, back to you in the studio. I'm Barbara Nevins-Taylor reporting live.
All right, Barbara, thank you very much. We want to show you some of the very first seconds of this tragedy as it unfolded this morning. Good Day New York was on the air, and it happened right in the middle. Let's take a look now. You can see here with this videotape that the camera was actually rolling. It was on the ground.
What the hell was that?
It sounded like a plane crash. Yo, close to you.
Come to us. Come to us. Come to us. Come to us. Hey, Beth. What is that? Somebody hit the World Trade Center or the...
It's a Trade Center.
The World Trade
Center.
There's a fire on the upper floors.
The voice you're hearing is Dick Oliver this morning as he was trying to get the attention of the producer to make sure that we were able to carry this signal live to you, and the shocking reality of what happened. You could hear the initial crash.
And now here's the video of the planes. Actually, this is the second attack on World Trade Tower 1. And you know, no matter how many times you see this video, it still seems unbelievable that this happened in our city. Early this morning, several hours ago. I've seen this piece of tape several times today. This is from a different angle, and it still seems unbelievable. All right, the airports were locked down after those attacks. No planes in or out. Let's go back to Mary Garafello at LaGuardia right now. Mary.
Well, Rosanna, you know, I'm not sure if you guys know this, but today is September 11th. That's 9/11. And whether or not that has any significance, you really have to wonder. But out here, there has been a 911 call for personnel, armed forces personnel who are coming to this city to help rescue crews with the recovery efforts tomorrow. We do have some breaking news, and it's disturbing. This evening, about 5:30, a white truck from the Meadowlands heading to the Manhattan-bound side of the GW Bridge was stopped on the just before the approach on the bridge. It had a truckload of explosives in it. Now, 3 men have been apprehended. We do not know at this point whether they have been arrested. We are hoping to get more information as the evening goes on. Now, there was an APB put out on this vehicle, and police were able, luckily, to stop it before it got on the bridge. Here, Port Authority officers were just starting to exhale a little bit and thinking that the worst had been over. Well, now they are back on full security alert, fearing that there is much more going on around them. They are worried. They were concerned that this truck perhaps might have been targeting the GW Bridge, although we do not have confirmation of that. And we hope to get more information this evening and report that to you as it comes our way. Reporting live from LaGuardia Airport, I'm Mary Garafello. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Mary, thank you very much. Another part of the country was under attack, but the fourth hijacked plane never made it to where the terrorist actually wanted to go. A passenger locked himself in a bathroom and called 911 to tell them terrorists had taken the controls. United Airlines Flight 93 crashed in Somerset, Pennsylvania. That's about 80 miles southeast of Pittsburgh. It left Newark and it was on its way to San Francisco. 45 people were on board, all of them died.
And the plane attack on the Pentagon left at least 100 people dead and an ugly gaping hole in the side of the building. Mike Emanuel reports.
Washington, D.C. is transformed into a war zone. Tonight, political leaders are trying to calm anxious Americans. The symbol of America's military strength, the Pentagon takes a direct hit from an act of terrorism, a commercial jet crashing into America's military brain trust. It's too early to know the number of dead and wounded. The president is promising punishment for those responsible for these terrorist acts.
I've directed the full resources of our intelligence and law enforcement communities to find those responsible and to bring them to justice. We will make no distinction between the terrorists who committed these acts and those who harbored them.
Officials say the U.S. military is ready to act when it's necessary.
But make no mistake about it, your armed forces are ready.
The attack on the Pentagon leads to evacuations of the White House and the U.S. Capitol. Much of the federal government is shut down. Commercial flights are canceled. Defense officials say despite the damage to the Pentagon, it is still functioning. Hours after the attack, the thoughts and prayers of many are focusing on the thousands of victims.
Tonight I ask for your prayers for all those who grieve, for the children whose worlds have been shattered, for all whose sense of safety and security has been threatened.
Officials say the U.S. has not retaliated so far for the terrorist attacks. The military is on high alert, watching the skies over Washington. At this point, people of different political backgrounds seem to agree it is time to unite. In Washington, Mike Emanuel, Fox News.
Flags were lowered to half-staff at the Washington Monument. It was an eerie sight. It was closed to tourists. Later, they even brought in bomb-sniffing dogs to patrol the place. Well, how did the terrorists manage to fly those planes at the Trade Center? Nick Gregory is also a pilot, and he's got some answers. Nick.
Well, Rosanna, these airplanes, of course, that hit the World Trade Center originated in Boston. And the original flight plan out of Boston would bring these planes up over southern New Hampshire and Vermont and then out over upstate New York. At some point during that flight is, of course, when the hijackers took over. Now, I want to show you a picture of a cockpit of a 757 that we have here. And what's interesting in the design that Boeing had on these aircraft, the 757 and the 767, they are very similar in design. The cockpits are almost identical. The type of systems are identical. The only thing that really differs are the size of the engines and the size of the cabin, the 767 being a wider aircraft. Now, as you look at the cockpit here, up in this position, this is the autopilot controls all up through here, and some of the radio controls. The controls that the pilots would hand fly the airplane are over here. This is the thrust levers, or the power levers as they're referred to. And also what you can see right down in this corner here, these two little green screens are the navigation systems. Now, when these planes depart their airports, the flight crews will put in the flight plan into these little flight computers, and just after takeoff, they'll engage the autopilot up in here, as the way Boeing really designed these airplanes is for the autopilot to fly the majority of the time with the pilots monitoring the systems all along the way. Now, at some point in the flight, when the terrorists made their move, they would have to be knowledgeable, really, of how to disengage the autopilot up in this system and reprogram the navigation system to their choice, and then fly the airplane actually by hand. Now, that's no easy task. A very close friend of mine is a Boeing 757 pilot, and recently I had the opportunity to sit in a couple of his training classes and actually fly the simulator for about an hour and a half. And I got to use the autopilot, and I got to hand fly the airplane, and I can tell you that that is not done without some experience. So there had to be some knowledge in how to work these flight controls in these systems to get the airplane to fly in towards the New York City area and the World Trade Center, of course, given the fact that they were originally programmed to fly into the Los Angeles area. So again, there definitely seems to be, in my opinion, some knowledge on these hijackers as to actually how to fly the Boeing 757, Rosanna and Harry.
All right, thank you very much. We have been checking with all of our reporters all night long. Let's check in with James Ford right now. He is at 6th and Broome for us tonight. James?
That's right. The operative street to point out here is 6th Avenue. Take a look. At 11 o'clock on a Tuesday night, ordinarily this street would be packed with cars and people, but police doing a very effective job of keeping people out of the southern end of Manhattan. And take a look over here on the left. That's one of the MTA workers. We've had about a dozen and a half of them walking up from the World Trade Center area. They are still on the clock and therefore haven't been able to stop and chat. But what they did say was that the Chambers Street stop down by the World Trade Center, that pretty much that tunnel has collapsed, and they have had to clear out a lot of the debris from that location. And what they're doing now is heading farther north, probably to the West 4th Street station, to lend a hand there and make sure that trains are running smoothly, and some of them can go home from there. We have coming up now even more people who've been working down at the scene. I can tell you about 2 blocks west of here on the West Side Highway, there have been crews just lined up for a long time. Actually, let's see if these folks will talk to us. Can we chat with you for just a moment? Do you mind? Can we just see? I know it's been a long night, but it's been a very long day for us. Okay, thank you. But that's essentially the scene that we've been seeing here all night long. It's just sporadically people who have been working down here at the scene coming north on 6th Avenue from the financial district, from the World Trade Center area, after having spent most of the day either waiting for mobilization to see if they could be of any service, or having worked down there like this other MTA worker, and then coming out because also the subways aren't running. They begin running from West 4th Street north, so that means down around Canal Street and Point South, trains aren't active, so everyone's been walking in this particular area. Sir, may we talk with you briefly? You're an MTA worker. Have you been down at Chambers Street? What have you been doing tonight? In fact, all day.
Well, sir, I've been here since early today. I'm a volunteer, search and rescue, and I've been here all day long, and I never seen so much blood today in history. I mean, this is.
Where in the World Trade Center area were you? Where have you been?
Right close to the building, right next to the building. I had to run all the way to Chambers Street.
And I noticed that you have a sledgehammer with you. Did it see any use? What did you actually end up having physically to do today?
What I did, I pulled out a couple of bodies, a few bodies out of there. I helped out on that, you know. And they had tower number 7 falling down, so we had to get out of there because it was unstable. And eventually the building fell down. You have another building right now that is unstable right now, and you got a lot of hot spots, a lot of fire, and a lot of chemicals, you know, from the fire. So you can't get in there. Nobody can get in there.
Do you know which building remains unstable at this point?
It's a great building. I don't know which building is that.
Right, but it's part of the World Trade Center complex.
It's around the area.
For you, I want to be gentle here.
Yes.
To go through that experience of having to pull bodies from this wreckage, what was it like for you? How are you coping?
My friend Roy is a volunteer, and he's still in the debris right now. When the building collapsed, he was in the building, you know, so it's horrible, you know. And you know what kills me the most? That we on state emergency right now, right? That's 911. We're on the 9th month on the 11th day. It's horrible. It's horrible, you know.
Thanks for talking with us. We're
Thank
sorry
you.
that it's under these circumstances. Good luck to you, sir.
My heart goes to all the family and friends of all the people, you know, in here.
Okay.
God bless you guys. You know?
Good luck, Godspeed. Thank you. Well, there's nothing more I can add after that. We are here on the scene on 6th Avenue. I'm going to give it back to you in the studio.
All right. Thank you, James. Incredible. Wow. We're going to go now to Mike Gilliam, who has some helpful information to get you around. Mike.
Thanks, Rosanna. We've been compiling a number of phone numbers that you can use and websites that you can use to find loved ones and that sort of thing. So you may want to grab a paper and a pencil. We'll give you some of that in a moment. But first, let me just update you a little bit on the rails. The LIRR, service on the LIRR is back to normal, and they expect it to be normal tomorrow during the morning rush. Metro North has been operating on a Saturday schedule, that word from Metro North. Now for those numbers. The city is saying that if you have problems out there that you might call 911 for normally, you should not call 911. The mayor asks that you call 212-560-2730. That number again is 212-560-2730. Also, for missing persons, if you have a loved one that has not come back yet or you think may be staying in Manhattan, a way to try to locate them would be to call 212-447-2998. That number again is 212-447-2998. Now, as far as websites are concerned, there are a couple of them that may be able to help you out a bit. A lot of people were taken by ferry to New Jersey. There's a website, www.ahnj.com. That's for survivors. That is for New Jersey's Atlantic Highlands Emergency Center. That's for people who were taken over there by ferry, so you can try that one. Also, there's another one, www.ny.com. That is for survivors as well. That is a website where a person who has survived this horrible attack can enter his name, where he is, and people can check up that way. Now, a number of the companies that do business around the World Trade Center and in those towers, they have also set up numbers. Morgan Stanley, the number there is 888-883-4391. That's 888-883-4391. Deloitte and Touche, their number is 888-243-7676. 888-243-7676. And Empire Blue Cross Blue Shield, the number they are using is 866-761-8265. That's 866-761-8265. Now, we'd also like to remind you that all public and Catholic schools will be closed tomorrow. That includes all of the schools in the New York Archdiocese. NYU is closed tomorrow. Jersey City and Bayonne schools will also be closed tomorrow. Broadway theaters were closed tonight. They will be closed tomorrow for the matinee. And the city will be closed from 14th Street south. We'll continue to try to compile all of these numbers for you, and we'll bring them back to you over the course of the evening. Back to you in the studio.
All right, Mike, thank you very much. Let's join Bob O'Brien right now. He is in Jersey City, one of the most beautiful sights in the entire city. Used to be from that side of the river in Jersey City, looking at the World Trade Center. Bob, what can you tell us?
That's right, Harry. You know, this act of war did target the World Trade Center in New York City, but just across the Hudson River here in New Jersey, the evil riveted everyone's attention. From the Weehawken Bluff, the black scar on the sunny morning sky was breathtaking when first glanced. Susan Edwards stood on her front yard overlook as she described what she saw Tuesday morning when she ran out of her house.
I saw the first tower, all black smoke, and then the white smoke. I knew the fire was under control. And then I went in, and I put the radio on, the television on, and I'm looking through my main window here, and I see the second plane go in. I saw the explosion. I said, this is a terrorist attack. It was so frightening.
All ferry boat services pressed every vessel into action, offering free rides off Manhattan Island as evacuated people tried to get home to New Jersey. Carrie Joseph was one of those ferried out after she escaped the Merrill Lynch offices in the World Financial Center next to the World Trade Center. That's where she works, on the 21st floor, when the two planes hit. Then she and others ran to the ferry boats, only to be horrified again.
We saw about 5 people jump out of the Trade Center.
From how high?
80s, 90s.
Floors.
Very high.
They were just
Jumping.
couldn't take the fire.
Right from where the smoke was coming out of the World Trade Center 1.
They all went at the same time.
Mm-hmm. On either side.
The Broad Channel Fire Department sent 2 ambulances from their place in Queens. They arrived at the World Trade Center just after the second plane hit. Chris Kalisak was one of 4 Broad Channel firemen hurt.
There were actually body parts laying on the ground, along with parts of the plane and parts of the building. And what we did was we parked our apparatus under an overpass that was between the buildings across the street. So we figured we would be safe from that, but apparently once that explosion went, it was like...
The second plane.
Yeah, with the second plane. It was just like when the debris came down, it was actually like a tidal wave of debris. And I mean, I looked back while I was running and I saw like fire department apparatus sliding sideways, and that's how bad the wind was. It was like a tornado.
More than 100 doctors, many of them surgeons in the New York metropolitan region for a convention, rushed to the Liberty State Park and formed a triage area. But most of the severely injured people were transferred here to the Jersey City Medical Center and other area hospitals. We are told, however, that there are several bodies being held in a temporary morgue in Liberty State Park. In Jersey City, Bob O'Brien, Fox 5 News. Harry, back to you.
All right, Bob, thank you very much. Muslims all across America quickly condemn the terrorist attacks. They don't want people to think that they are responsible. After the Oklahoma City bombing, you remember, there was a sudden surge of anti-Islamic sentiment around the country. This ended after Timothy McVeigh was caught. Well, today Muslims say that there is no reason for this kind of brutality.
Whoever came in this mosque today, everybody was sad. They said that innocent people, they shouldn't be killed.
All that was done today was to murder innocent people and not to contribute to having a peaceful world.
Muslim groups are asking their members to help the victims of the attack by donating blood or providing medical help.
And in the Mideast, when Palestinians in East Jerusalem heard the news, thousands took to the streets and did something unconscionable. They celebrated. They poured into the streets, many chanting, "God is great," even handing out candy. They apparently do that when they celebrate. Many believe the U.S. takes sides with Israel. Palestinian leader Arafat condemned the attacks and sent condolences to the many victims of the series of assaults.
Dozens of United States embassies closed all over the world right after these attacks in New York and in Washington. The State Department gave most of them the option to stay open, but they told officials to make sure that they took every precaution. The embassies in the Middle East are closed indefinitely. In Venezuela, the embassy shut down and it erected concrete barriers.
Well, with us right now is Michael Wiles. He's a lawyer who's had plenty of dealings with terrorists because some of them are his clients, and they have helped our government head off possible attacks in the past. Michael, what happened today?
We'll find out. The fact is, a tragedy occurred on U.S. soil.
We all know that. Did your clients or any of your clients in the past ever give our government any kind of inkling of what's going on or what may have taken place today?
Absolutely. I had a phone call earlier today from a naval intelligence officer who had dealt with one of my clients in the past. And every time there's been an atrocity, something has been linked to some of the cases that I've been involved in. The fact is, these people are human assets. They have connections within the bin Laden infrastructure, and they've provided this information.
Well, what did the intelligence officer say? What kind of information did they get?
Well, they're looking right now for everything and anything. The fact is, they were caught with their hands down. Why two planes were able to make their way to the World Trade Center has to be explained to the millions of Americans.
Is, I mean, it's not a situation where I think we want to give anybody blame right now, but what kind of information did they receive?
Your sources.
What did they say?
Well, the fact is, my discussions with my clients are separate, and they're right now cooperating with the government. In fact, that's why I represent these individuals, people who have cooperated with intelligence services to give them this information. What we want to know, actually, is there an infrastructure? Are there terrorist cells that are brewing in the New York area? What, if anything, did they do to give a safe haven to these individuals?
But, I mean, doesn't today's attack prove?
Pardon?
Doesn't that prove it? Today's attack,
absolutely.
Doesn't it prove it?
It speaks scores to the testimony of people that have gone to Capitol Hill in the years past that have been asking congressmen to legislate to stop these kind of atrocities. I hope the intelligence community will be able to cull out this information, and I hope that a lot of other host of attorneys will protect their clients, but at the same time cooperate with law enforcement to make sure that they'll get this material.
Did you do that?
Absolutely. I was representing a gentleman who was implicated in the Colbert Towers in 1996. He blinked the lights, allegedly, and then a truck came up and killed 19 Americans. Yeah. I represented him as a former federal prosecutor only to make sure that he would give more information on other people up the chain of command.
Now,
then he didn't, and he was removed.
Is that usually where this intelligence information comes from? Former diplomats, that kind of thing?
Well, the fact is that you can get as much information as you can from satellites, from artificial intelligence. The best, though, is human assets, and they're very far and few between. There were two diplomats that walked in to a police precinct about 2.5 months ago in New York. These are people that need to be cultivated. A message has to be sent to the UN that we will not tolerate your violating your diplomatic cover, and that if you are in U.S. soil, you're going to have to respect Lady Liberty, who's only but a few hundred or 1,000 yards from that atrocity
All
today.
right, thank you, Michael. John Rowland now is in the newsroom with some late information. John.
All right, thanks, Rosanna. The hope of finding survivors in the rubble of the World Trade Center is being fueled by reports of cell phone calls that are being made from victims who are trapped there. Now, the police commissioner said that rescuers have determined there were some people alive in a couple of those buildings downtown. Police sources has told us that they've gotten some phone calls from people who were trapped in the rubble of the Twin Towers. In one of those calls, a surviving civilian said he was trapped with a police officer, an officer who has been reported as missing. Major League Baseball has canceled the Yankee game at the stadium tomorrow. They were supposed to play Game 2 against the White Sox. Today's game was canceled also. So was every other ball game around the country. That hasn't happened since D-Day. Security is extremely tight around the house at Ruthville tonight. We're told it's surrounded by police right now. In Connecticut, the governor there says it's going to be business as usual in his state tomorrow. He wants everybody to return to work. He says the school buildings are safe. He wants them back in school. He is also willing to send some equipment from the National Guard here to our city if we need it. And he also plans to open Bradley International Airport at about noon tomorrow. And the airports here in New York are supposed to open at about noon, but that may be later than that, noon at the earliest. Harry, Rosanna?
All right, John, thank you very much. Other part of the story that we're covering tonight, Senator Hillary Rodham Clinton responded to these attacks in America. She says that she supports President Bush and his plan to hunt down the terrorists, and said that she understands how tough it is to clean up the city.
I'm very proud of New York City. The mayor, the police, the fire, all the people working in the emergency front lines have done a superb job. But, you know, New York is the global city. It's the symbol of American leadership, and, you know, these terrorists made a direct hit on who we are as a people, and New York has responded, and the national government has to stand behind us.
Also, Senator Charles Schumer says that the day has left an indelible mark on the character of this country. Rosanna.
All right, Harry. Well, as we told you earlier, airports nationwide were shut down after the attack. That included Reagan National Airport in Washington. It's the first time in history that a ground stop was put on all flights in and out of the country. Evacuations were ordered at well-known buildings across the country as well. In Chicago, emergency crews worked quickly to evacuate the Sears Tower, the tallest building in that city. State and federal buildings were also closed there.
Right after the blast, phone service was disrupted. That caused a lot of anxiety for many people trying to get in touch with their loved ones. The equipment and the antennas used to transmit millions of calls each day were destroyed when the towers collapsed. It took some time, but eventually the calls were rerouted. Right now, most of the service is back to normal. And trading stopped on the New York Stock Exchange 10 minutes after it began as a safety precaution for the people who work there. The markets are going to remain closed tomorrow. Also, the primary that was scheduled for today obviously was canceled. No future date has been set as of yet. Rosanna?
Harry, everybody's trying to deal with the devastation. Let's go back to Kimberly in Midtown right now. Cam.
Well, Rosanna, I'm here at St. Patrick's Cathedral, where for several hours people have been gathering on the steps. They've been praying, they've been hugging, they've been talking about what happened today. Governor Pataki was here this evening. He urged everybody to pray. He was here praying, but he also urged everybody to be strong and not allow evil and terror to take away our freedom. Firefighters from the outer boroughs have been moved here into the city. They're taking over at fire stations where crews have been pulled to go to Lower Manhattan. They're watching things there, and they tell me it'll slowly happen in a wave. Well, they will then take over those firehouses and then move down slowly, working their way to Lower Manhattan. One gentleman here I just ran into a few minutes ago, he was in Lower Manhattan just yesterday afternoon. Tell me what you were doing.
I came here from Newport, Rhode Island, and brought two young men, one my cousin from Europe, who just came with visit, and the other American kid who never been in New York City. For both of them, that's supposed to be one of the best day of their lives.
And where were you, sir?
And we came to see Statue of Liberty, and then about 3:30 afternoon we went on the top of World Trade Center. And I believe we were one of the last people on the observation deck because the weather broke down. So we were trying to have this beautiful view from the top of the building. The guys were extremely happy. They make so many pictures. And today is supposed to be the day when we should go around the city and explore more and have fun. And right now I'm staying with you.
What do you think about everything?
It's really hard to say because it's such a unbelievable.
Giuliani right now, and this is a news conference that he is holding.
Anyone close is still not knowing that it's structurally sound. We're safe. The last thing you want to do is.
All right. We are working on trying to get that news conference. Obviously, we're having some audio problems right now. Adrian Nardo has some information on what to expect for tomorrow and how the traffic is going to be and all of that kind of detail. Adrian.
Okay, thanks very much, Harry and Rosanna. And, of course, the rescue efforts continue. They'll continue tomorrow. Again, closures in Manhattan, Lower Manhattan, especially below 14th Street. And it is going to be really a tough time to get into the city tomorrow as well. Let's go to the maps again and try to explain a little. First of all, the airports, as John was explaining before, could open as early as noon, possibly 2 o'clock, possibly later. The airports are going to be trying to schedule a lot of flights, and there will be a lot of delays, a lot of confusion. Call well in advance and give yourself lots of time to get to your respective airports. As far as coming into the city at the bridges and the tunnels, we just do not know. MTA expects normal activity at all their crossings. Hudson River crossings, we are just not.
No, they weren't.
There were rumors that there were explosives. Well, where did those rumors come from, or why did that begin to circulate?
I can't tell you.
Were they in the Meadowlands Police Commissioner?
Excuse me?
Were they in the Meadowlands?
It's my understanding, but we haven't confirmed that.
Do we know why they were stopped, sir?
Not yet.
Commissioner, can you tell us anything about the rescue of the two Port Authority officers?
or the ongoing effort with the people in the basement, where the Port Authority officers were pulled out of, or the details?
We can't say yet. It was Trinity and Church where the officers were that were just pulled out. The other people that are still in the building, we can't tell exactly where they are.
We all know that the Port Authority is housed in the World Trade Center. Any idea of the status of their operations?
They've lost a lot of people, and we don't know the full dimension of that either. But the Port Authority have a lot of people that are missing, and we were fortunate to find 2 of the police officers. We'll keep searching for the others, but they have sustained a lot of losses.
The group of people with the cell phones that Marcia referred to, do you have any idea how big a group that size is in that particular location?
I don't think we know the exact numbers. We know it's more than 2 people. It's two people communicated, and they say there were more people there.
And do
the people who are roaming around the city trying to find information about those who are missing, what are they supposed to do? Where are they supposed to go? And who's collecting that information?
The phone number that they should call is 212-560-2730. And then, as we have information about people either who have been recovered or are dead, we'll let them know that.
Is our morgue able to handle this?
We had a meeting with the medical examiner earlier. Went over it with him. He believes that he's able to handle it. He'll start handling it at 30th Street, which is the morgue for Manhattan. He'll then be able to move up to the Bronx, where he also has facilities. And then we have the possibility of using the pier on the west side, which is set aside in case the numbers get too difficult to handle. But he thinks he can handle at least a good deal of it tomorrow and the next day, right in Manhattan.
Commissioner Bonnet, can you talk about the loss of the fire department?
We've got over 300 people that are missing that we can't account for. We believe that many of them are gone. We don't. We'll keep looking. We have hundreds of people over there now trying to find as many possible locations that they might be in some way in a void or whatever, and still be able to breathe and still alive. But we believe that most of these people, I think, are going to be unable to pull out. So we'll just keep working on it. I have a number I'd like to give. We haven't been able to make any contact with the families because we're still unsure of the situation. So the number for the families who haven't spoken to their loved one in the course of this whole horrible day, if they call this number, we'll at least tell them that that this is a person that's missing, or that we have had some contact with this person. The number would be 718-999-2541 is a number that we'll be using at Fire Department headquarters.
What about
It's just for firefighters.
What about Chief Dan?
Just for firefighters. Firefighters and fire officers, EMS personnel. I would we'll man those numbers. That number will roll over to 10 lines, and we'll be able to just try to give them some information. We don't have a lot, so that's why we haven't been calling them like we would normally do.
What about the teams top members of your staff who may have been lost?
I'm sorry, Deb.
What about the top members of your staff who may be lost?
We've notified their families already. Spoke to them earlier.
How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about it? I don't know what to say. We lost people that have given over 40 years. Commissioner Feehan has had every job in the department. Probably the most valuable person in the department. When I got this job, the mayor and Commissioner Safer said, make sure you keep Bill Feehan. Haven't regretted that one day. He's given a whole life to this department. Chief Gansey, the same thing. Chief of department, 33 years, 34 years. Ray Downey, we just honored him with a dinner. Almost 40 years of service. World renowned for situations like this. Telling me how dangerous it was when we first got there. All the possibilities, everything that he was trying to do to, get the people out. Father Judge, I don't know if you know Father Judge, one of the nicest men you could possibly find in the whole world. We haven't found other people yet either. I don't even want to mention their names. Some of the best people in this department. I can't find anybody from 5 rescues and 7 squads, and it's just it's a devastating thing. I don't know. Well, the fire department will recover, but I don't know how.
Commissioner Garrick, in the police department, do you have any idea how many people you're looking for at this time right now?
The number we're looking for is in excess of about 32, 33 people. That's what we know as of right now. And for the members, for the family members of the police department, if they have questions or they need to contact us regarding their family members, they can call 718-677-8238. It's the Special Operations Division, and we'll be able to help them as much as possible.
How close are rescue teams able to get to the scene, assuming there are people who are there?
The rescue teams are able to get very close now. It was very difficult during the day, but in most places they now can operate. There's still a few dangerous areas, but they're able to operate. They're able to operate down there now.
And are there pockets where people maybe?
Yes, we're very hopeful that there are pockets where there are people, not only the ones that we know about, but hopefully others. A group of firefighters were at St. Vincent's Hospital that were in a void for 4 or 5 hours, and we're hopeful that there are other situations like that. And that's why our rescue workers are working so furiously.
How big a group was that, Mayor?
That was a company. It was a group.
Company survived?
No, it was about 7.
Yeah, it's 5 guys and an officer.
5 guys
6.
survived.
Six men.
This was earlier today. They were in I believe one World Trade Center, and the firefighter described to me that they were there for about 4 or 5 hours, and when they walked out, they were shocked to see that the building had come down, because they knew there had been damage, but they had been in a void, so they had been protected.
What unit are we talking about, Bill?
It was,
I'm not sure.
Forget.
We'll find out for you.
I think I remember, but I don't know.
Can you just tell us again about the 2 Port Authority police officers, how they were found, their conditions?
No, the only thing we know is that they were found a while ago, that they're alive, and we'll get you more information about their condition.
And since we're talking about the Port Authority, I guess it's a reasonable assumption there's a large number of Port Authority police officers missing as well?
I'm sure there are. We don't have those exact numbers, as well as Port Authority personnel, the people who work for the Port Authority.
Wasn't their office in?
Yeah, their office was there, and so we don't know how many people were actually at work. The first attack was at about 8:50, and then there was time to evacuate a lot of the building. So we're not sure at this point how much of the 2 buildings were evacuated in that period of time between the first attack by the airplane until the first building came down. We're hopeful, because we saw a lot of people leaving. We all did at the time we were down there. We're hopeful that a lot of people got out of the building, but we don't know the numbers yet.
Maybe Commissioner Carrick could tell us a little bit about the high-ranking members of the department. I understand one was missing for a while, and you were able to find him. And I believe the police surgeon was medevaced out to New Jersey. Did I get that right? No?
No, not to my knowledge. Police surgeons accounted for the ranks that we're looking at and looking for are at the ranks of police officer and detectives, and perhaps a few sergeants.
Last question, Deborah Farrell. Last one, Deborah Farrell.
That's all right.
Is there a coordinated effort right now to find out who exactly may have not been in the building when this happened, or people just calling various companies? How will we find out who was there and who was not there?
We're trying very hard by communicating with the Port Authority and some of the major tenants. We're trying to recreate how many people are there, but actually the major effort is really focused on trying to rescue people. The people who are out, I'm sure, have largely communicated with their families and are doing that. I saw many people doing that on the telephone as we were leaving. So really the focus of our efforts is to try to get as many people out as possible with the hope that there are still people that are alive, like the ones that we know about.
Mayor, you said earlier that there were several other buildings downtown that may be structurally unsafe that you were still not sure about and that, in fact, may collapse. Has anything changed from earlier today?
No, I think. No, I think. No, I don't think so. Not from the last time we had a briefing, and we were down there. And
5 World Trade Center, I heard, was in some kind of trouble. What's the status of 5 World Trade?
I don't know.
Still, we're going to wait for daylight engineers to take a look at all these buildings.
I'm sorry.
We're waiting. We're going to wait till the daylight tomorrow. We'll have building and structural engineers check all these buildings that we're concerned about to make sure they're safe for rescue workers and to see what we can do to salvage these buildings.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, you can ask your last question. Go ahead. Go ahead. He's been trying. He's been trying for a while.
In terms of how long does the department expect the people to be able to survive underneath the rubble like that? I mean, is there some sort of...
There's no... They could survive for some time. There's no way to know exactly how long, but it really it depends. And I think one of the things that comes out of today is it depends on... I guess it depends on the will of God, or as to where you are, where you're standing, as this firefighter pointed out to us earlier.
Mr. Mayor, just to clarify something Commissioner Carrick said, you were about 10 minutes past from when you were standing with several of the high-ranking officers who you lost, and then you went to Barclay Street. Have you thought about that 10-minute gap, how you were 10 minutes from being in a horrible situation?
I haven't had a chance to think about it yet.
But is that sort of accurate, that you would have been with them, you were with them 10 minutes earlier before the building collapsed?
Well, some of the people that we lost, we saw, like Father Judge and Chief Gansey, Bill Feehan. We saw them about 10 minutes before we went over to 75 Barclay Street. And as I talked to their families, and I explained to them that they were working very hard and they were working at what they love to do, and I'm sure their efforts will end up having saved other lives, and their families can be very proud of them. We have, without any doubt, the best police department, the best fire department, the best police officers, the best fire officers, the best emergency workers of any place in the whole world. And although today's tragedy is going to be enormous, and there's no way to minimize it, if it weren't for them, this tragedy would be far worse. I mean, they executed brilliantly today. And I having watched it, and having been a recipient of their services because we had to get ourselves out, I can tell you that whatever the number of casualties, without our police department, our fire department, our EMS, and the kinds of people that we have, many of whom lost their lives, there would be double or triple the number of casualties.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You have been watching a news conference with the mayor and various commissioners, the fire commissioner, the police commissioner, and also the building commissioner. The rescue effort is going to continue throughout the night. Just to recap, they did have some sort of contact with some people who are still in the rubble, apparently phone contact. So renewed efforts tonight, certainly renewed hope that the rescue effort is going to bear some fruit. But some 300 firefighters are still missing. Some 33 police officers are still missing, and some of the people that are missing and presumed dead were, in fact, very close to the mayor and also his commissioners. In fact, you just heard the mayor say that he was with them just moments before they went in to rescue more people and presumably lost their lives.
If there's something that we can take from this, amid the death and destruction, there is hope. There are survivors, and they're working to find them right now. We want to go to James Ford, who's in Lower Manhattan, with the very latest. James.
Well, we are still here on 6th Avenue, and as we pointed out, a variety of people have walked up 6th Avenue from the World Trade Center area. One of those people is joining us now. This is Robert. You have been a messenger down at World Trade Center Tower 2, as I understand it. Yes. You have been injured, and we encountered him walking home after having been hospitalized. Could you talk, first of all, if you would, just tell us how did you get injured? What happened?
Well, basically, I actually was in the situation when World Trade Center 2 was falling. And when the building fell, everybody started running, trampling over everybody. And as I was running, pieces of debris fell, and then I fell with the debris, and then my ankle was twisted, and now it's swollen. And also, at the time period, my ankle being swollen, people were stepping on me also. So I was injured on my arm right here, which is bruised, and my ankle, which is swollen. And at this time period, now I stayed in the hospital because the hospital was so crowded. And now, after I was seen, I'm on my way home. It's no subway service.
And as I recall, you live in Harlem. How far is it that you've had to walk with this swollen ankle? If you don't mind, could you turn a little more toward me?
So far, I've walked approximately, I don't know how many blocks it is, but I know it's over 20 blocks so far because there's no subway service. There's no way I can get home until I get to a subway. And there's nothing below in this lower part of Manhattan where I can get home to.
Right, so you had to pass through the World Trade Center area to get to here tonight. Describe what you saw down there tonight.
Oh, it's total chaos. It's nothing but debris and newspaper and papers all over the street and smoke. Everybody's screaming. Everybody's crying. Firefighters are exhausted. They're busing firefighters back and forth to the collision area where everything is at. And it's very, very bad. It's a very sad situation. Very sad.
Good luck to you. I know you've got a journey left ahead of you. The subway stop is just at West 4th Street, so you're almost there.
Thank you.
Good luck. Robert, thanks for talking with us. All right, we'll keep you posted from this location as we continue to observe things as they develop. We're live downtown. I'm James Ford, Fox 5 News.
All right, James, thank you very much. Well, wrapping up this major news story tonight, Mayor Giuliani says that the death toll will be substantial once rescuers get into the rubble from what is left of the World Trade Center. President Bush said that it could be thousands.
But some trapped police or firefighters may still be alive. All of Manhattan south of 14th Street is closed tomorrow. Don't go there. The attack used 4 hijacked planes. 2 hit the World Trade Center, 1 to hit the Pentagon, where 100 people may have died.
Now, the 4th crash was near Pittsburgh. Airliners there, or all airliners, I should say, are now grounded through noon tomorrow. Tonight, police may have taken a white van into custody. They may have found a white van on Route 3 in the Meadowlands, and that van reportedly had explosives in it.
And that's our report for tonight. We will be here through the night. We're going to leave you right now with the Fox News Channel. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Rosanna Scotto.
And I'm Harry Martin. Have a good night.
Keep the faith.
Manhattan, but don't try coming in right now. The bridges, the tunnels are still closed off, and lower Manhattan is going to be completely sealed off tomorrow. The authorities say that anyone down here other than the authorities working on the search and rescue mission will be charged with a Class B misdemeanor. Back to you.
David Lee Miller, downtown, keeping an eye on the rescue efforts, which the mayor says now will kind of step up because the rescue workers can get closer to the wreckage and start looking. Report that survivors are in a basement down there. At least a couple of them have made cell phone calls out, and they say they have more people in the basement with them, so maybe there is a little good news somewhere in all of this disaster. Linda.
All right, we're going to pause for just a moment so that some of our Fox stations can bring in their local news in just a moment. But in the meantime, we want to bring in Colonel Joe McGinnis in Washington, D.C. with us. He has been helping us along with some of the terrorism information we've been working on. Colonel, an important new development, it appears, according to the Associated Press, the FBI is preparing to search locations in Broward County, Florida, Daytona Beach, Florida, looking for some connection to a person who's been listed on the manifest of one of the 4 jets hijacked today. It's believed that person has a connection to Osama bin Laden. What do you make of that?
Well, that's probably true, Linda. You know, keep in mind the 1998 bombings in Africa, our 2 embassies there, we've traced back to Ali Muhammad, a former sergeant of the U.S. Army who was linked up with Osama bin Laden, also a link with Iran. And so, you know, it's a rather tight circle. There had to be, as we've heard along through the night, a host of people that are working on this issue that had to be inside the airport, 4 different airports that had to be, you know, working very carefully on these various issues. So this is a tough issue, but yes, we'll find those people, no doubt, in time, and we'll be able to trace it back, I think, quite frankly, as everyone's been saying, to Osama bin Laden.
Colonel, I want to apologize, first of all, in the rush of things, for messing up your first name.
That's
Robert
all right.
McGinnis, not Joe. And a question about what exactly we may be able to gain if we don't find the black boxes in the investigation. We've had some other folks here, including a senior investigator from the NTSB, former senior investigator, who believes that the chances of finding any of the black boxes on any of those 4 aircraft, well, the chance is very slim, he says. What do you think?
Well, Linda, clearly the black boxes and the voice recorders and all that would be very useful. However, we do have some idea of who's on the manifest for those aircraft. We'll do, if we haven't already completed, some sort of tentative background investigation to determine where they came from and histories and so forth, criminal backgrounds. So we'll be able to piece together a team of people. Keep in mind, you probably had at least 2, maybe 3 in each of these aircraft. They had to have some connection with one another. So the FBI will be looking for that. They'll be looking perhaps on the ground crew, what commonalities are there. They'll find these traces and they'll be able to do something with it.
Colonel Bob McGinnis, we thank you very much for your expertise. If you would just stand by for just a moment. We are going to pause now so that our Fox stations can join local news. This is the Fox News Channel's special live coverage of the aftermath of the massive terrorist attack on the United States of America today. Early this morning, 8:45 a.m. was the first attack. A jetliner hijacked, headed into the first of 2 towers of the World Trade Center. Shortly after 9, the second plane crashed into the World Trade Center. Shortly after that, an aircraft literally plowed into part of the Pentagon. And then shortly after that, another aircraft, which we have been told, at least by one member of Congress, was destined perhaps for Camp David, the president's retreat. It ended up crashing outside of Pittsburgh. There is a massive investigation underway. The FBI has dispatched literally thousands of agents. The NTSB helping out. There is a federal response plan. This has been planned. A federal response plan has been in the works now for decades. But it has recently been updated, and now it has been called into place. Some 28 agencies involved in responding. At the lead, the Department of Justice. Also, though, the FBI leading the investigation. We're going to stay on top of this round the clock, continuing live Fox News coverage, not only of the investigation, as the FBI agents now have descended on the 3 airports where those aircraft have taken off. Boston Airport, where 2 aircraft took off. Dulles Airport in Virginia, one of the aircraft took off from there. Also Newark Airport in New Jersey. We go back to Colonel Bob McGinnis, who is with us, helping us understand some of the pieces that are going to go together in a terrorist investigation. It's early, I know, Bob, but tell us where we go from here in these next few hours.
Well, we're going to obviously first try to save as many lives, and I saw the Pentagon on the way over to Fox News, and it's still burning. Frankly, we have to trace, as I said earlier, all those connections, all the people that are out there. Clearly, your National Security Agency, your CIA, they have bits and pieces. We've known for weeks, perhaps, that Osama bin Laden's been, threatening. Now, he threatened prior to the USS Cole bombing last October. He threatened perhaps on the Khobar Towers years ago in Saudi Arabia, and he also threatened about the embassies in Africa. So this guy has a track record. I think that we'll be able to piece a lot of these things together, and we will probably paint a clear enough picture for the NSC so the president can make a decision on how best to proceed. And that may be, some very tough action on the part of the president and the military against Afghanistan, the Taliban. In fact, of course, they've denied any involvement. But these issues that have already been brought up throughout the last 12 hours are very clear. They point a finger straight at Osama bin Laden.
Colonel Robert McGinnis, as we try to figure out what's going on, we appreciate your help and staying with us tonight as we stay up late following the developments in this case. Some incredible stories are now emerging on the Associated Press and other sources from the planes themselves. These planes that were hijacked, people on board, who was on board, where they were going, what was going on, and a few phone calls. A businessman, his wife, and young child aboard a United flight that left Boston and crashed in the World Trade Center twice called his father in Connecticut as his plane was being hijacked. The victim's father told the FBI his son made 2 calls. Both times the phone cut off. In the first, the businessman said a stewardess had been stabbed. In the second call, the son said his plane was going down. This is truly awful stuff, but we've known it's awful stuff all day long. It's just that now we will begin to see some of the true dimension of this. Survivors, some are being found and popping up in the World Trade Center, and of course we don't know the death toll yet. Linda?
We just want to let you know what you're seeing on the bottom of your screen. It's what we call a crawl, and you're going to see the names of a lot of companies. We are giving you the names of those companies. Those are the ones who have offices in the World Trade Center. Some of them are still looking for staffers working in their offices at the time the 2 aircraft slammed into the Twin Towers. They are still working to try to find some of the people who are still missing. People working in those towers, and also some of the rescuers, the firefighters and police officers who rushed to the scene as soon as the aircraft hit the towers. It is going to be a scene of confusion for some time, but clearly the companies that you're seeing on the bottom of your screen are trying very hard to reach their employees who many of them at this hour are still missing. There are hopes that they are still alive in the rubble of the World Trade Center in Lower Manhattan of New York City.
Terrible, terrible day in New York and Washington and out in Pennsylvania, where 1 plane crashed, 2 directed into the World Trade Center towers in New York, and 1 into the Pentagon. People aboard, a couple hundred people aboard, killed. No one knows how many people on the ground at the Pentagon and in New York were killed, but we're hearing some startling stories now of people on board the flights calling their relatives from their cell phones and reporting what was going on. A woman in San Francisco reported that her son called from the United flight that crashed in Pennsylvania. He said, "We've been taken over. There are 3 men that say they have a bomb." Once again, we're trying to follow every development in this. The United States now threatening anybody who had a hand in this and anybody who would have harbored them. That would include the Taliban government of Afghanistan if they had anything to do with harboring Osama bin Laden, who, if he had anything to do with this terrible attack. Linda.
Some 15 hours after the first attack on the World Trade Center, there are reports now that there are some people alive in the basement of the World Trade Center. Apparently, according to the mayor of New York City, at least 2 people have cell phones. They've called their relatives, apparently their relatives in Seattle, to let them know they're alive. Also to let them know that there are others in that basement trapped along with them. The mayor says that there is a rescue effort that is underway. He also said it's been underway for some time. They're still trying to reach those people. One of the difficult things here is fortifying what is left of the World Trade Center so that they can get to those people who are still in that basement, hoping that they do have some air pockets that they can use for oxygen. We have as producers tell us once again who we have to join us. Colonel Hunt with us, who is going to help us with a little bit more information. Colonel, are you there?
Hi. Yeah, how you doing?
Hi. Tell us exactly what you know.
What I'm getting is there's some interest. There has been some rocket attacks in Afghanistan reported. Everyone, we're denying it. That's of some interest. I don't think we get enough information to say we're targeting Afghanistan.
Colonel, I think the White House, actually the Pentagon has come out pretty quickly saying that they have nothing to do with it. What people may not be aware of is that there is a terrible civil war going on in that country.
Yeah, right.
There were explosions even yesterday that were utterly unrelated, and so at this point it's being assumed that those explosions have something to do with the Civil War and not any sort of United States response.
I guess, Mike, from what I know is that maybe of some interest. I've actually run about 9 hijacking training exercises at about 9-10 major airports over the last 15 years, and I've actually did one in Boston. And it's already been noted more than once here that the GAO reported and the FAA's reported, and it's unfortunate, tragic, devastating that it's going to take these numbers of deaths that'll finally come out to possibly get us excited about doing the right stuff at our airports. Once we figure out who did this, everyone seems to want to pick on bin Laden. I think it's an easy target. I'm not so sure yet that it is. We still got to answer the question of who's supporting these people. I don't think it's enough to take out an organization. You have to do the country and the people. There's no question, Saudi Arabia's involved. Clearly Afghanistan's involved. But we've got state-sponsored terrorism. This was such a well-planned deal. I would find it difficult to believe that this was done by just a terrorist organization. This takes inside information. This takes a lot of planning and pinpoint execution.
Colonel David Hunt, let me ask you, if it is state-sponsored terrorism, I mean, not even sponsored, state-involved or state-countenanced or state-aware terrorism, is what you heard the president saying tonight, that we would make no distinction between those who carried out these deeds and those who harbored them, does that mean we rain bombs down on some countries?
Look, I have heard, take anything in the recent 20 years, from the tragedy in Beirut with the Marines and Army guys who were killed, to the most recent tragedies with the coal, in Saudi Arabia with the Hobel Towers. We've heard our leadership, public officials, make those same comments. My problem, John, is we've got nothing happening. I mean, the most recent time I was on with you, we had the Chinese take some of our guys for a few days, and now we're paying the Chinese some money.
Right, but you would admit, even in this discussion, that there is a hugely quantitative difference between the couple hundred, 200-300 Marines killed in Beirut, the few hundred killed at the Khobar Towers, the 168 killed at Oklahoma City, and what is likely to be 10 to 20,000 dead at the World Trade Center. Is that what it is? Just numbers?
John,
if you get into the thousands, we go to war?
I guess my point, Augusta, is have we had enough? I mean, are we mad enough now to do what we need to do and unleash the dogs of war? Yeah, the tragedy is that, I mean, one person gets killed overseas, 20 get killed overseas, it's over there. And it had to come to this level of devastation. All right. Although, yet, I'm not convinced, as we're speaking now, what we're really willing to do.
All right, let me put it there. Let me make it practical for a moment.
Sure.
You have run these hijacking exercises. Yep. We now have reports from numerous cell calls made to relatives aboard these planes as they were going in, that the hijackers had taken over the planes with knives. Not with guns, not with bombs, with knives. Maybe plastic knives, maybe knives that couldn't be detected in the middle of the thing. Something as simple as a knife. Get up, stab the stewardess, take over the cabin, cut the throat of the pilot, fly the plane into the tower.
Yep.
Why don't we have armed sky marshals on our planes?
Oh, you're right. You can remember when we had them.
I do remember when we had them.
I remember.
I don't know why they went away.
One, that made everyone nervous. Two, we lost the money. Three, it got...
Wait a minute, you mean the airlines lost 3 seats of revenue?
No. It cost... The Sky Marshal program was actually people that were hired as U.S. Marshals. Some of them were, when they first did it, they were active duty Special Forces guys. The program ran out of money. Nothing happened. We've got people with active guns on the plane. It made a lot of people nervous. You're absolutely right. If in fact the reports are that at least one of these planes was taken over with knives, clearly Sky Marshals would have been great to have.
I mean, that would at least assure you that even if somebody got on board with a gun, that there was a fairly even match. I mean, passengers, you're right, get nervous about it. A gunfight on board a plane at 33,000 feet is an inherently dangerous situation. But it might be a better result than what we saw today.
I think you're absolutely right. That's certainly one airplane. I find it difficult to believe, though, that the other all these 3 planes, there weren't some weapons involved. But the terrible fact is that our airports are civs. It costs billions of dollars to secure them. All of the facilities, the fencing around all these airports, with the exercise we've done more than one, which you just throw the weapon over the fence and go get it. We get into a mechanic's outfit, put a fake badge over, and walk any place in the airport you want to. Here's the problem with this, John. I think we have to look out. We got to take care of business on who did this. One of my concerns is that we're gonna start losing a lot more civil liberties than we really need to think about. I don't mind us being inconvenienced. I think we need to be more inconvenienced, like the El Al and like the Rome Airport is. But I think we ought to be real careful about putting the 82nd Airborne Division on the streets of New York City.
Colonel Hunt?
Yes, ma'am.
If you would, I'm sorry to interrupt, if you would just stay with us for a moment. We need to bring in another voice here. Congressman Chris Cox of California, joining us with more information on what members of Congress are being told this hour, particularly with regard to the investigation and what we're learning who may be responsible for these 4 plane attacks. Congressman, what do you know?
Well, this evening, I and the congressional leadership and other members of the House and the Senate were briefed by the Attorney General, by the Director of the FBI, by the Deputy National Security Advisor. It was a classified briefing, and so, of course, I can't share with you the details of what was discussed. But as the President explained to the country this evening, we are focused on 2 main objectives. Number 1 is hunting down, tracking down the source of this terrorism and eradicating it. And second, putting the country back on its feet and getting back to work.
Congressman, let me ask you some pointed questions. Our chief political correspondent, Carl Cameron, has been talking with congressional staffers who have high-level security clearance. I'm assuming you've been told the same thing, that there are Osama bin Laden sympathizers in Broward County, Florida, and Daytona Beach, Florida, one of whom was listed on the manifest, the passenger list, of one of these 4 hijacked flights. I'm sure you were being told the same thing, were you not?
Well, what I can't tell you, of course, is precisely what was discussed in a classified briefing. What I can tell you is what you might surmise on your own, and that is that going through these manifests, identifying the pilots and so on who were on board these aircraft is one of the very elementary first steps that law enforcement is going to be taking in these cases. All
right. Now, let me also ask you about this report. Orrin Hatch, ranking Republican on the Senate Judiciary Committee, said earlier this evening that U.S. intelligence has intercepted communications between certain bin Laden backers, acknowledging that certain targets had been hit. What were you told?
In this briefing, of course, I'm not at liberty to describe to you what I was told. During the day today, I heard reports from public sources that these intercepts had been made. I should tell you that I started out the day with the Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense at the Pentagon at the very moment that these attacks occurred on the World Trade Center. I was with Don Rumsfeld and Paul Wolfowitz in the Secretary's private dining room. Ironically, we were discussing the new threats that are emerging that America is facing, and the Secretary had said literally moments before the Pentagon itself was hit that there will be another event. And he said it twice for emphasis, there will be another event, not because he'd been tipped off, but because he was so certain that terrorists are aiming now at America, at our heartland.
No, I realize that if I keep asking you more pointed questions, you're still not going to tell me what was said during that briefing. But earlier today, I spoke to the foreign minister of Israel, asked him pointedly, with all of their extensive intelligence network, did they have any clue, any specific indication that this attack was coming? Israel said no. Is that what you have also gotten from the United States government? Our
government, as has been said in many public fora during the day today, did not have advance warning of this attack. It was indeed a horrible surprise attack and one of the most egregious acts of mass murder imaginable.
What is it for the rest of the night for you and other leaders of Congress? Are you hunkered down in a certain place? Do you continue to hold meetings throughout the night? Are you going to bed down for the night and begin things anew tomorrow morning? What's the plan?
Well, as you know, I'm a member of the elected leadership of Congress, and our small group of elected leaders in the House and the Senate has decided very recently, and we are going to continue to talk and plan tomorrow, that we will be in session tomorrow, that Congress will go to work. It will not be exactly business as usual because we will take up a resolution dealing with this subject. It's probably very likely that early on in what remains of the week, we will also take up a supplemental appropriations bill to give our government agencies dealing with this problem the tools that they need.
Now, you realize that some mere statement about just condemning this act is probably going to be insufficient for an awful lot of Americans who are outraged tonight, who are terrified tonight.
There is no question that a piece of paper, condemnation, public opprobrium, UN resolutions or even cruise missiles directed at militarily related targets, the usual sort of response, is wholly inadequate here. But what has happened today has transformed not only America, but I think the free world. And I think what we have seen now is that there is an annealing. We are now united in our resolve, liberals and conservatives, Democrats and Republicans, Americans and our allies, in going after this menace, which is a threat to civilization. Civilization has a right to protect itself. These people, whether it is Osama bin Laden or some other horrible person uniquely as evil as is he, we are going to eradicate these people from the face of the earth.
Do you think that the intelligence community let all of us Americans down today?
That's the wrong way to direct all of the emotion and energy and, if I may say, enthusiasm for going after this problem. Rather than direct it inward and point fingers, we've got to direct it outward at the problem. And I think properly channeled, all of these energies will be put to good use. We have, in America and in the free world, many more resources than do the terrorist networks that we are facing. What they're doing is leveraging rather meager resources into terror, really making 250 million people feel as if they are threatened, when in fact they are not. The free world can and must go on, and if we decide to do so in ways that we have not up until now, we can and we will win.
Congressman Chris Cox, before I let you go very quickly, when is your next scheduled briefing so that we can get back to you?
Tomorrow at 12:30 p.m. Eastern Time.
Congressman Chris Cox of California, we thank you very much for your input.
Linda, while you're talking to Congressman Cox, I'm reading tomorrow morning's Washington Post about the victim phone calls aboard the plane. We know, of course, that Barbara Olson, the woman who has appeared many times on this network, who was killed on the plane that crashed into the Pentagon, called her husband, Ted Olson, the man who argued the case for George W. Bush before the United States Supreme Court during the disputed election. What we're now learning is that Barbara Olson and others on board that plane were herded to the back of the plane and ordered to call relatives to say they were about to die. It wasn't sneaking a phone call in. The hijackers with box cutters and knives ordered those who had phones to call their relatives and tell them they were about to die. Also, the Washington Post is reporting that that plane, Flight 77 from Dulles to Los Angeles, a Boeing 757, was aimed at the White House. But the target suddenly changed and the plane plowed into the Pentagon. Nobody knows exactly why the target changed from the White House to the Pentagon.
And clearly we will be getting more disturbing information in here in the coming hours. We turn now to correspondent Rick Leventhal. He was on the scene as the towers of the World Trade Center began to collapse today. He was there during the massive triage effort. He joins us live once again. Rick?
Linda, John, give you an idea of what's happening here now. It looks like a construction site. More than a dozen bulldozers just rolled by us here, many of them with the New York City Department of Sanitation. You see them heading up the road now, sort of in a direction away from the scene of the World Trade Center demolition, but they may well be coming back at some point. Not sure where they're going, possibly a staging area. But certainly there is a lot of heavy equipment here on Church Street and in the area at this point, bulldozers and dump trucks and the like, basically waiting for an opportunity to go in there and start clearing the rubble of what's left of those twin towers that collapsed, and of course also World Trade Number 7, the 47-story building that came down late this afternoon. The only lights that you see on, by the way, here on Church Street are being powered by generators or batteries. They have turned off electricity and gas in this entire area in the hopes of preventing more fires because of the danger when you have explosions like this of more fires erupting. So no electric in the area. People who live here are just out of luck. And in the meantime, the smoke is still billowing, although you can't really see it at night, still smoldering from the site there where the towers collapsed, where the other building collapsed, and also a nearby hotel which has been burning. We've been talking to firefighters and police officers as they come back from the scene. They're still out there. Many of these guys have been working since early this morning, plan to work through the night and into tomorrow. They are reporting seeing terrible things behind me, just a few blocks south of us here on Church Street. Bodies in the area, certainly lots of bodies, and trucks that have been demolished, fire trucks burned in the fire, a lot of police and emergency vehicles there as well, a lot of rubble, and chunks of the World Trade Center literally in the road blocking Church Street right in front of where the World Trade Center used to stand. We've seen a lot of emergency vehicles going back and forth, as I mentioned, a lot of construction equipment as well. Other than that, it's been relatively quiet out here, basically waiting for light, waiting for the smoke to clear so that they can get in there and begin the grisly task of going through the rubble and recovering the bodies and looking also for those survivors who may still be buried underneath the rubble. That is the one good story that we've been hearing out here, is that there may in fact be some people still alive buried underneath the rubble who've managed to call relatives on their cell phones. The question is, can rescue workers get to them in time? The police commissioner and others have said that they're efforting to rescue people who are trapped, possibly some police officers, possibly others trapped in the rubble. But again, a difficult situation over there because there is so much big debris, and there's also still heat, smoldering embers, fire, that sort of thing. So they're trying to get the hot coals and get the heat down and move some of that unsteady large debris out of the way if they can, to get to the people who are still possibly alive underneath it all. So obviously a lot going on out here, most of it happening a few blocks away from us in this area, a staging area for vehicles, construction vehicles, ambulances and the like. Guys?
Rick Leventhal down there as the next phase of this begins, which is a look for survivors, if there are any, buried in the rubble of the Twin Towers, 210-story buildings that collapsed. There is a huge amount of business, or was a huge amount of business done in those two buildings. Let's go now to Fox News senior business correspondent Karen Gibbs. Karen, what does this do to the nation's ability to do business with those two buildings gone? What are we missing as of tomorrow morning?
You're missing the New York Stock Exchange, the American Stock Exchange, and the NASDAQ. They will not be open tomorrow, or today, I'm sorry. And in fact, this is going to be the first time since 1945 when these markets have been closed 2 days back to back. This is the hub of the financial industry and in financial district. Not only are you talking telephones and wires and the antennas on there, but I'll take, for example, Bank of America. The debit cards aren't working because the debit main headquarters right in the World Trade Center, which is no more. Now, it's not affecting credit cards, but it is certainly affecting markets all over the world. Tokyo off 7% at the open. It has come back a little bit, only down 5%, but still, it's below the 10,000 level, the first time we've seen that in 17 years. Hong Kong is also down 7%. And going back to Tokyo, you know, Sony, the one and only, it's one of its main stocks on the stock exchange. 30% of its business comes from the United States. That stock is getting slammed. It's off 5%. Australia is at its lowest level in 16 months, down 4%. And you know News Corp, the owner of this station here, 70% of its business comes from the United States. That stock is lower by about 9%. The Japanese banks and airline shares are suffering here. The dollar is trying to bounce, but it's not doing much. But oil up over $1.55 to now better than $31 per barrel. People are very worried that this is now going to affect supplies that are coming out of the Middle East, although OPEC, of course, says it is committed to sufficient supplies.
Karen, can I interrupt you on that
point?
We're getting reports of price gouging in oil already in Mississippi and Kansas
Missouri,
City.
Kansas,
in gasoline.
everything.
How does that make sense?
It doesn't. But, you know, people get nervous in times of tragedy like this, and so they start stockpiling. And yes, I'm already seeing $4 and $5 per gallon gasoline in Kansas, of all places. It's affecting these, and of course, the oil companies are trying to come out and say something about that. But certainly, you know, when you have this type of tragedy, people overreact.
Second.
Karen, so what about the the Mercantile Exchange. Is that in that building, and what is the Mercantile Exchange?
The New York Mercantile Exchange is right across the street, the World Financial Center. But, of course, it is affected by this. And, in fact, that's where crude oil, that's probably one of the best known, crude oil and heating oil, are traded. And so they're going to be closed at least through Thursday. So we won't have any chance to even try and hedge those purchases or offset any type of exposure that producers and end users may have. This is going to be significant for the energy market. Also, you trade precious metals there. And, you know, gold is traditionally a safe haven in this type of drama. And certainly it has reflected that today. It has popped $18 to $290 an ounce. That's almost an unprecedented move recently in these times for gold. So you are seeing some knee-jerk reactions. I do have to say the trade is rather thin because everybody's watching and waiting to see what we're going to do here. But certainly there have been some reactions all across the world.
Karen Gibbs telling us how this is going to affect the markets and the economy and the business community. Of course, one of the big effects will be just so many people in so many major companies were killed. There are companies that lost everybody, and there is simply no way to know what the total toll is right now, no way to know what the effect of all that is. There are companies, we've been running a crawl across the screen on the bottom, whose headquarters were at the World Trade Center. They're gone. They're completely gone. There is nobody there to run the company, to answer questions, to take care of accounts, and it's going to be days and days until we have any idea of that effect on all of us when, of course, the immediate effect is on those people and their families. Still, no idea how many people died in those towers today.
They would look. Some of the latest information coming from the mayor of New York City. Apparently, there are more than 300 firefighters who are unaccounted for and feared dead, more than 32 police officers missing. They're looking for them as well. We will continue to update the information coming in just a moment. This is the Fox News Channel's continuing live special coverage of a terrorist attack that has literally stunned this country. Just getting word now from the mayor of New York City. They have confirmed that there are people alive in the basement of the World Trade Center. They have gotten word that at least 2 people have placed cell phone calls to relatives in Seattle, of all places, letting them know they are alive. Also letting them know there are others with them trapped in the basement of the World Trade Center. The mayor of New York City, Rudy Giuliani, saying that there has been a rescue effort underway there for some time to reach them. They haven't reached them yet. This is one very difficult aspect of this because they don't know what is still standing, what is still supportable in the World Trade Center. These are 2 towers that were 110 stories tall. Now the only thing that is left of them is about 5 stories, and they don't know what is still secure. FEMA, the Federal Emergency Management Agency, has dispatched a number of urban search and rescue teams to try to fortify these buildings and extract the victims. This will take many hours. And as we have been explaining throughout the night, time is of the essence. With me now, my colleague, John Gibson.
Yeah, and joining us in the studio here is Monsignor Jim Lasante of the Catholic Church. And, Father, I think we all want to know how people in your profession, if you will, deal with 10,000, 15,000, 20,000 dead, families out there. There's that many families out there wondering what has happened. No accounting, no way of knowing what's going on. There's this rubble that's about 3 or 4 feet or 20 feet deep that contains these people. Some, maybe a few alive, but a huge, huge number of dead. And this goes beyond what we've seen in any terrorist act anytime.
I think, John, that every parish, every synagogue, every outreach group in the metropolitan area has to be sensitive for their people's sake to, first of all, those who have lost family members and try to be supportive. So bereavement groups are going to be necessary. But even beyond that, to our school children, I can see many of our children wondering about what kind of evil force could bring something like this about. I went tonight to St. Patrick's Cathedral. Cardinal Egan had a mass there for all of those who have died. And he was very eloquent, and he said, let's look at the positive miracles out of this, too. And he talked about being around the lower part of Manhattan today, visiting the hospitals and seeing people of incredible generosity, both the firemen and the policemen, but also people who had no particular business being there except that they wanted to help. And he talked about the great spirit of New York. He said, there's a great evil in the world, but there's greater good, and we have to celebrate the good.
Okay, Father, I wouldn't want to quibble with you about that. However, what's going to happen here in the next few days if these numbers turn out to be true is there's going to be a list published, and there's going to be a little picture by everyone. And it's going to take pages and pages and pages and pages of the New York Times, and millions of people are going to be angry like they've never been angry before. How do religious leaders control that kind of anger?
Oddly enough, I think that religious leaders have to approach it in some ways not unlike the president did in talking about fair retribution. You know, we're a country of laws, and our laws have to be upheld. And an eye for an eye and a tooth for a tooth is only something you come to after there's a sense of justice having been served. So first of all, we have to find out who's responsible before we hold them accountable. I want to say something else, though, John, that I think is important to say. These people who hate us enough to do these heinous crimes didn't develop their hatred this morning. This is coming after years and years of what they perceive to be our particular oppression of them and their people. I guess I wonder if we hit too hard, and especially hit the wrong people, if we're not creating a new generation of children and grandchildren of these new martyrs, and that's how they'll be portrayed, who will then come back and kill our grandchildren. In other words, when does the cycle of violence stop? When do we stop, keep hitting them, and they hit us? When do we finally say the insanity has to stop worldwide?
Well, yes, but the argument is we haven't hit. Well, I'll tell you what, Monsignor, hang with us just a second. We'll discuss this on the other side of a quick pause. Let me just remind everybody what we're talking about here. An untold number of dead. New York City Twin Towers collapsed, 4 planes hijacked, 4 crashed, 3 into their targets. We're going to take a quick pause to let our Fox News stations join us after just a moment. We are back. This is the Fox News Channel's continuing coverage of the terrorist attacks today in New York and Washington, D.C. 4 airliners hijacked, 3 hit targets in New York and Washington, the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, as well as the Pentagon. Untold number of people have been killed. We have no idea how many. We know there's something upwards of 50,000 in the World Trade Center towers. This is a picture of the second plane hitting the second tower this morning, right about 9 o'clock. That plane was loaded with passengers, hijacked, and flown directly into those towers. And the incredible devastation that has followed. Monsignor Jim Lasante of the Catholic Church is with us right now. Linda?
We also have some more information to bring in.